As I sat down last week to, consider what was exactly the conversation that our planetary neighbors might be having that would be worth paying attention to. And, you know, we as human beings set our rudder in such a way that we're able to, as best we can, uh, manage a safe trajectory through the human level of foibles, misdirection, and so many factors that apply on us and try to tell us what is it that we're supposed to do in order to really be human. And I considered a lot of things last week. That this is Saturday now. What is it? Today's the 3rd. Early this morning, we had a full moon down in the sign of Cancer, very close to the planet Jupiter. And I will get into that, not exactly at this moment, but because the topic matter that I'm going to talk about today it exists in the realm of questionable. And part of that has to do with what I brought up last week about the fact that we would had Mercury out of bounds, the moon out of bounds, Venus out of bounds, and Mars out of bounds as we began this new cycle, or 2026. The ease with which we could make determination as to appropriateness for aiming our rudder in such a way that our trajectory was going to lead us on a path that might prove beneficial on multiple levels, while at the same time being able to weave through the dictates of what it is that our cultural societies have set in motion that may or may not be the most beneficial for what we as souls actually incarnated at this particular time to delve into. So as I was determining what might be appropriate as a background for this level of consideration, and I came across this quote from Joseph Campbell. The eternal principle, which never was born, never will die, it is in all things. It is in you now. You are the wave on the face of the ocean. Can you feel that? when the wave is gone, is the water gone? Has anything happened? Nothing has happened. It is a play, a game, a dance. The process of being a soul alive right now, here on earth, it is a game, it is a dance, and it is a play. This is kind of an opening to the topic matter that I'm going to bring up that is related to and I chose today, Saturday, for a reason, because today is the last day when all four of the planets that are out of bounds are going to be out of bounds at the same time. And the leaning that, I was asked by the muses to bring up for consideration is morality. Oh, kind of a touchy-feely area that, where does it come from? I mean, we've got moral, we've got immoral. These are connected to, in one sense, morality. It's you could say it's a Sagittarian Jupiter kind of energy, and part of the reason that this may be showing up in the planetary conversations at this particular moment is the fact that Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, is in an opposition to this full moon experience that is going on today. That's the kind of the religious, spiritual. I'm reluctant to call it spiritual because the realm of religion and spirituality don't necessarily move along the same track or road of life. And part of the experience is also that moral or morality is a Capricorn or 10th house kind of consideration, in that a society, a culture, has deemed certain rules and regulations need to be followed in order for the collective to not tear itself apart on so-called moral principles, which kind of leans over that line into that Jupiterian Sagittarius 9th house realm that acts as a buffer to say that if you stay within these particular parameters or lines of dictate, then things will function effectively in such a way that we're not challenging each other all the time to the reason for being alive. There's a moral code. Now, let's flip the coin over. What's the opposite of moral? Immoral. Now, immorality, irony of ironies, is that it as well has a 10th house or Capricornian flavor to it. And you go, oh, wait a second now. How can we, throw both the moral and the immoral into this same cauldron of process? I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but in this cultural cauldron that we find ourselves, the distinctions of moral and immoral, They're like particles roiling or boiling around in the same cauldron of cultural dictates that for some, leaning one way or the other is, it's just par for the course. Well, one other arena that we must not forget to include in this consideration and I think it has something to do with the religious side of this consideration, is that immorality also has an affinity with the eighth house or Scorpio kind of energy. And immediately, what kind of things could Scorpio stand for in that eighth house? Life and death matters. The sexual promiscuity possibility. Well, just by throwing sexuality into promiscuity, I think we paint it with a brush that doesn't really doesn't do justice to that sacred art of connection one with another that really intermingles one person with another on so many different vibrational levels. Can the soul actually engage in this sexual dance without being caught up within the moral, immoral consideration that culture is trying to, define so specifically? This is partly because of the fact that we have 4 planets out of bounds today. There's one other aspect. I'm just going to throw it in there. It's not necessarily something that all of us are tuned into, but it has to do with the moral, immoral dance, play, or game. This term is amoral. You go, well, wait a second. You can either be moral or you can be immoral. I mean, that's what society has said. These are the dictates. In order to actually survive in society, you got to be one or the other. Do you? Let me read you the definition from Webster's for amoral. Being neither moral or immoral, lying outside the sphere to which moral judgments apply. Science, as such, is completely amoral. Lacking moral sensibility, infants are amoral. Being outside or beyond the moral order or a particular code of morals. Let me throw you a curveball here. I'm going to not really quote something, but I'm going to pull on a thought that somewhere along the biblical dialogue indicated that in order to get into heaven, one had to become as a child. Can you feel the amoral prerogative in a potential for the release of the whole moral, immoral game, dance, or play that has culturally obsessed us as we engage with one another in this living experience. Do you think your soul actually cares about that in such a way that it curtails our interactive capacity to be adventurous with one another in new ways? This is part of that, what I mentioned about 2026 is a number one year. Beginnings of something. The key is it's the beginning of something. It doesn't say what the something is going to be. This happens every 9 years. We come to a 1 year where it is time to, take a chance. I think that's a very one kind of energy. And, step perhaps in what might appear to be outside of the lines of what it is that is considered appropriate. Can you feel in that? These 4 celestial bodies out of bounds, grabbing a hold of my tongue, my consciousness, inviting the muses to come and sit on my shoulders, whisper things in my ear that are not following a script that is trying to contain the potential for really vibrantly being alive. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the chart. Today is Saturday. You can kind of see we have a little bit of Capricorn going on. And in this, you will notice that this Venus, our experience of art, our experience of engaging with one another in whatever fashion is deemed appropriate. That engagement with one another is very much an Venusian flavor on the far side of the sun. You'll notice Mars here also, right there on the far side of the sun. This is often considered a very debilitating or challenging place for a planet to be. And yet, with just a small tweak of movement, hey, the planets all move. It's not a static thing that says things need to be such and such and never a change shall happen. Oh, no, not. We'll look over here too to see. You can kind of see all these pink ones. These are out of bounds planets. They're no longer trying to fit into a container or the containment that is dictated by authority. Irony of ironies, except for the moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all in the sign of Capricorn. There's a cultural, authoritative flavor that Capricorn stands for. And the moon, over here in Cancer, full moon, is opposing from its out of bounds perspective, saying, rules? Says who? Who dictates these rules? From an out of bounds perspective, I ain't got no time to fit in a box that you are trying to tell me I'm supposed to fit into. Welcome to the full moon that began today, real early this morning here on the West Coast. We proceed to tomorrow. Things change. Let's once again, we still have all the planets up there, all the personal planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, as well as the Sun, our authoritative core, fire burning in the heart of who we are, in Capricorn. Well, look at that. The moon, no longer out of bounds. Venus, no longer out of bounds. Yet. Always a yet. What other things? You can see Mars is still out of bounds. That driving kind of energy that Mars represents. Very close to the Sun. Venus, 13 degrees, 49 minutes, just about to shift into 14 degrees, where the Sun is. As this transpires, still remember, on the far side of the Sun, still in some sense debilitated, under the heat of this overarching reign of authority, that Sun, the king, the queen kind of energy. Monday comes along. Look at that. Venus at 15 degrees 4 minutes. The Sun, 15 degrees 19 minutes. There's a term that the court is still debating on this. I'm talking about the astrological court as to whether Cazimi is a thing or not. That is being, there's this narrow window in the core of the Sun's experience that is considered the heart of the Sun. And if you think about it, the Sun rules Leo. Leo is the heart, that driving red corpuscle kind of energy that inspires taking chances. This is very Leonian, very solar in nature. And when a planet, and I do say the jury's still out on this, reaches that Cazimi within that heart of the Sun, it's no longer, this is my own observation, as impeded upon as the dictates of, being overtly challenged by the solar energy, but has been invited into the heart of the Sun and given, a level of shared authority from the Sun to speak its mind, to live its reality in such a fashion that the encumbrances of the general realm of authority are being bestowed upon its presence in such a way that what it says and what it does at those moments carries weight. And we're talking now Venus, that realm of interactive display that we, engage each other in the investigation of why is it that we came together at this moment. This is Monday, starting out this week. Venus, Cazimi, the sun, in the heart of the sun. So as you initiate your experiences with others going into this next week, be aware that all of us, this Venus, for all of us, is asking us, well, what kind of questions might it be asking you? Are you going to, potentially play the moral, immoral game with each other? Or perhaps, I'm just going to throw this out there, might there be more of an amoral perspective? Be childlike. Be open and adventurous with one another. Tune in, if you will, to a soul clarity of why it is that we came together without expectations. Can you feel that? I don't know why we're together. Let's experiment. Let's see where this takes us. Can you feel the child in that? This energy, let's see. Let's just go check. We're on Monday now. Okay. Mars, no longer out of bounds. So the dictates of, that driven energy, it's being more, sucked back in, if you will, to authoritative expressions of what does it mean to be in charge. Have I got the access and the availability of Mars, a military behind me to support what it is that I'm going to do? We're not going to go into the political side of things of what's going on right now. Anyway, Venus in the heart of the sun, Cazimi, is asking you, are you going to be on one side or the other of the coin? Or perhaps maybe the coin is standing on the edge and there's an invitation to something that you had not contemplated since you were knee-high to a grasshopper, a small child, getting used to the experiences of the adventure of life. Doesn't come necessarily with rules. They get applied as you go along. By what? By the moral, immoral dictates of the culture or society that you find yourselves in that say, if you want to be a part of what it is successfully we stand for, then, we got some rules that you need to follow. And these rules are set down by, where did these rules come from? Is it possible that there might be some religious overtones in this mix that have determined in some fashion what is moral and what is immoral, that are the dictates that you need to fall within if you're going to, hang with us? Essay question. You have to come up with that answer for that. Your choice, always. Free will. Free will is the final destination that we all have to aim for. We make choices. We all do. Just have to ask yourself, what are the choices that I have made or am making based upon? Is it in that moral, immoral container? Or perhaps that coin standing on edge is saying, I can see the value in the moral, immoral equation, But something else beckons my attention. There's a soul implement at the core of who I am and what I came to live into in this earth dance experience, that at times feels curtailed, restricted, contained from the free expression of what it is that I need to awaken within myself as a part of not just me, but all of the living processes of this experience of being here on planet Earth. Mercury. Yeah, Mercury. Mercury's still out of bounds. It will be out of bounds until the 15th of this month. So half the month, During the whole rest of the Capricorn cycle. Where do your words in your thoughts come from? That is a mercurial question. Mercury being out of bounds for this extended part of the cycle that we're in likely has a lot to do with where the words that I am being inspired to share with you today is coming from. This out of bounds mercurial nature says, if I were to attempt to, restrict or contain where it is my thoughts are leading right now, I would not be honoring this out of bounds mercurial nature that wants to, spin a tale, tell a story that doesn't necessarily have a pre-planned, pre-programmed answer to it, but wants to, stimulate a thought, a version of experience that I haven't had yet, haven't had before, but my soul senses is right there, waiting to awaken, or maybe it's already awake, and I'm just needing to hop on board that particular craft and allow a new version of the story of this soul development in the living process to put in an appearance. Let's go on. There are other days to this week. After all, we're only on Monday. Tuesday comes along. Well, look at that. Venus, 16 degrees, 20 minutes of Capricorn. Sun, 16 degrees, 20 minutes of Capricorn. Can you sense that Venusian Cazimi energy saying, I would like to challenge your perspective? The Libra scales, Venus, are they balanced or are they tipped? More tipped, I can't say that one way or the other is more appropriate. I can say that paying attention to where it is that you find yourself, that's appropriate. And this Venus, right there in the core center heart of the sun, is inviting the engagement with one another at this time to say, how do we find a value in what it is that is seeking expression through our combined energies that can be, an expression of a 1 year, something new rather than just a regurgitation of what was, what has been, what will continue to be. Oh no, I hope not. There's an invitation now to wake up to a new version of our expression of ourselves with one another that is begging for our attention. You will also notice the sun is moving a little faster than Mars. I can show you. This is the speed. This column is called the travel. The sun is moving at 1 degree and 1 minute per day. Mars is moving at 0 degrees, 46 minutes of a day. And we may as well throw Venus. Venus, it's moving faster than the sun, 1 degree, 15 minutes, 1.25 degrees a day. So Venus is catching up with the sun in the heart of the sun here on Tuesday. And by the way, that is a Mars day. And I have to throw this in right here. Venus and Mars, masculine and feminine energy. They're both in play right now with the solar orb. And you might say, well, Venus right now in the heart of the sun is being given a tailwind as far as its ability. Mars under the beams of the sun. Oh no, in the heart, not quite in the heart of the sun, but combust the sun. And that is, a very challenging place for any planet to be. And this is Mars right now. That militaristic, war-minded kind of energy, not trustworthy. Don't count on it. Wednesday the 7th. I wrote something down for Wednesday the 7th. Oh. Venus and Mars, both at 17 degrees of Capricorn. And Venus, still close enough to be considered Cazimi in the heart of the sun, is carrying, if you will, that Cazimi energy as an invitation to Mars's impulsive level and drive to say, hey, my brother, chill if you will. The sun is going to catch up with you very shortly. You too will be in the heart of the sun. While I am there, I still am, I am asking you as an invitation to, respect the energy and the experience of others as having some level of appropriateness for what it is that we have to do together. A 1 year, remember. Something new is asking to be born. Thursday comes along. Oh, look at that. The sun is at 18 degrees 22. Mars, 18 degrees 34. Mars, oh, look at that. In the heart of the sun. Venus, still echoing from a little bit further away, maybe not as strong anymore because it is, oh, look at that. It's still at 18 degrees of Capricorn as well. All three of these, Sun, Mars, Venus. That is potent. very potent energy where the masculine and the feminine sides of the equation are being, brought to focus. Solar focus with a driven kind of essence for, appropriateness in the realm of cultural authority. Am I? Are you living with enough stature within yourself to stand up for the soul level dictates within yourself that know and recognize not a religious, moral, immoral side of an equation, but a spiritual, connective kind of energy, experience of what does it mean, what can it mean if we work together with all aspects of the creative principle. All of creation, Mother Nature, we are a part of it. Don't forget that. I haven't said much about it, but since we began Saturday with the full moon, every week, 7 days, the moon moves 1/4 of these signs around this zodiac, which means that, as you can see, on Friday, the moon's over here, it's just entered Libra. Can you feel the Venusian experience there? It might take a little bit more because Venus is basically being challenged under the influence of that solar experience. But Mars is still in the heart of the sun, only 2 minutes apart from that core reality. Mars can be the warrior as a brutal, devastating kind of energy. But it as well can be a rainbow warrior whose function is to provide protection for those who require it in any moment, for what is appropriate and right in the experience from the soul's perspective, to be there as a hedge against injustice that is being pressed down upon someone who doesn't recognize their own soul worth to such an extent that they are willing to stand up against the oppression, no matter what the cost at this physical level. Because there's a spiritual ingredient in all of us that recognizes that standing up for what is correct has the potential for costing me my life, my physical life, not my spiritual life. My spiritual life is a forever thing. That is soul and spirit. So what is appropriate and correct at that level exists beyond the constraints of what a cultural and societal dictates might have us think we're under the control of. Last quarter moon, a waning moon, from 20 degrees Libra to 20 degrees Capricorn. Two cardinal signs. Cardinality represents an initiation process. Something is begun. That's a version of initiation. The last quarter moon in any cycle is a crisis in consciousness. First quarter moon is a crisis in action. Comes after the new moon. Something is initiated, started. First quarter moon, crisis in action. Am I on the right path? Full moon, I have a maximum attunement to a version of the potential whole of what it was that I initiated. The waning quarter moon, crisis in consciousness, is, was I appropriate in what it was that I initiated, and how am I doing with that process? So here, from this cardinal Libra perspective, the moon is saying, can I feel, moon, I feel a version of collective interchanging kind of energy with others that is related to the Capricorn dance going on right now? Are we on the same page to do what is appropriate? Can you sense in that a crisis in consciousness? And, just for a gee whiz factor, we're still in a Mercury out of bounds space. The thoughts of, allowing the cogs in the wheels of life, the perspectives of what it is that is potential to work with one another, are coming from this out of bounds mercurial thing that could, have you questioning the appropriateness of what it is that you or me or we are up to, and the potential for its longevity for the living process. That moon, last quarter moon squaring the sun, is it possible that we, when we gather together with each other, might feel that square challenge of how we feel about what it is that culturally has been set in motion through those who claim positions of authority currently? That is another essay question that we have to answer, each of us, ourselves. And the week comes to a close. Venus and Mercury, Venus and Mars are now under the I was going to say dictates, but I'm not entirely sure that that is the most appropriate attitude to have about this. our masculine and feminine energies straddling either side of that solar core, still on the backside of the sun, are no longer maybe firing as profoundly present energies in what it is that is transpiring. That is, maybe a little bit further afield than I may have intentioned this to go, but hey, sometimes those planetary juices, they just flow in such a nature that I'm pulled along with it. And I would share this with you in the hopes that each of us is going to, be a reflection of the eternal principle. It was never born, and it never will die. It's there. It's in all things. We are it. So, what are we going to do together? That is the question. That's all I got for this week. See you all next week. And, be gentle with one another. Our Mercury thoughts, they're going to be out of bounds all week. They've been out of bounds last week. When those errant thoughts appear, ride them for a bit. It's highly likely they're trying to get your attention for a reason. What do you think that is? Ciao.